Hello, my name is Melinda Williams, and I'm Peer Review Manager in the Journals Department of the American Psychological Association, or APA. The video you're about to watch is from a live training session conducted recently. We're still learning how to do this, and to help us learn, we'd appreciate your feedback. My email address will appear at the end of this video and can be found on the teamspace.com website as well. Please feel free to contact me with questions, comments, or suggestions. Thanks, and enjoy the video. Where you're going to go to log in, and you'll get an email about this, I think, later today, because I think we're going live with the site later today. It depends on my ability to get things tested completely. But you're going to be at editorial manager/EBS, and that will bring you to a screen that looks like this. So you see it looks very similar in layout, except that it will have your journal cover. And this page will be linked to from the APA homepage for your journal. And there'll be a link that says, please to submit a paper, click here, and it'll bring people here. And from here, they have to log in to get into the system. Register. Yeah, everybody who uses the system, that's authors, reviewers, editors, has to be registered with the system. It's a difference from what we had with the previous system we were using, where authors could just come in, didn't have to register. But everybody is given, when they first register, they get a system generated username and password, which is sent to them, and you'll get the same will be for you when we send out the welcome letter. But you can log in, and there's this update my information link here that you can click on and update your password once you get logged in. So, let's go back to the test site, because that's where I want to play. It's got test data and dummy email addresses, so I can do whatever I want in here. So we're going to log in, and I'm going to log in as Stephanie, who is an associate editor for this journal. And I'm going to click the editor login button. So you basically, whatever your function is, or whatever your business is with the journal, you would click the correct button. And if you have permissions to do that, it'll let you in. Because everybody, by virtue of having a username and password, everybody gets an author login permission, but then reviewer and editor things are granted by the journal office. So, okay. So I'm going to log in as an editor. Publisher, just to clarify what that is, you'll never use this. It's for our printer Synveo, to grab accepted material for publication. So we're going to click the editor login button, and it brings us to what's called a main menu. And there's a link here that says main menu, and this is where this is basically your home page. They've made it kind of confusing because they've got a home button here. If you click home, it brings you here. Yeah, it brings you out of the system. So you always want to go to the main menu to get to your work. And from here you can update your information and change your username and password and things like that, and your contact information. So this is what you'll see when you log in. The first section is called submissions with. It's just a grid that will give you sort of a at a glance number of manuscripts who have X number of reviews completed. For your journal, I think Dan was saying that the default should be 2, but some articles need 4, some articles only need 1. And this system will support that, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to the reviewer search portion. But this is just a grid telling you what's going on with the manuscript, or how many manuscripts are in what phase of completion. The next section is search, which is reviewer search for manuscripts or for people, which you can do. This has a lot of different criteria that you can search on. This is not the reviewer search. This is just simply searching the system for maybe an author or a reviewer You might use this to check see whether a reviewer is registered in your system before you send them an invitation. If they're not in, then you might want to register them, proxy register them. Yeah. But you might come here and just check see if they're in before you try to register them. The other thing you can do is you can choose to type in a name like, Williams, and find anybody with that value. Or you can come over here to user role. And remember we talked about there were the 4 buttons outside on the login: author, reviewer, editor, and publisher. So we have 4 sort of umbrella families of users. There are underneath the umbrella header of all reviewers, there are types of reviewers. And similarly, under the umbrella of editor roles, there are all of these different editor roles in the system. So if you were to look for someone, if you wanted to look for your ed board and just check it out, you could come here, leave the value blank, click search, and up comes your entire editorial board. Okay, so you could you can click on a name if you were trying to get in touch with them for some reason. The yellow is what I also wanted to explain to you, is we have a system called proxy in this program, which allows you to proxy in as another user. So anytime you see yellow over a role, it means that you have the permission, to proxy in as that person. So if I were to click on in that role, so here Ruth Baer she's got an author role, everybody does, and she's also got an ed board reviewer role. So I can click on ed board reviewer role, and I'll be now in proxy for her, and it takes me to a different main menu, which is the reviewer main menu. Yes, and if you were to click that, if you had clicked that reviewer button to log in, this is what you would have been brought to, a reviewer menu. So I don't know that you'll have a whole lot of need for this, but I just wanted to explain what it was, because it's the garish yellow is so it makes you wonder, what's that, right. So that's the reviewer search. This next section is called the editor to-do list. This is where the action happens. This is everything that you need to handle. Your new assignments, things that Dan assigns to you, will come into this folder. You'll also receive an email when he assigns work to you. So you can either click, and it'll contain a link in the email that will let you bypass login and go straight into the manuscript detail page. And then these other there's a queue here called submissions with required reviews complete. Anything that's in that folder means it needs a decision letter. Say you have a setting of a threshold of 2 reviewers, but you get lucky and you get 3 people who agree to review. The system, unless you make a change, which I'll show you how to do, it will move it to required reviews complete once 2 are in, even though there might be 3 coming in. So I just want you to be clear about that the system will move a manuscript where it's put to a queue based on what you tell it to do. It's based on the default, but you can go in and change that for each manuscript. If you find, say after the fact, 3 people agree, you can go into that manuscript and change the threshold to 3. And it'll wait until 3 come in before it moves it to this queue. You won't have a subordinate editor's pending assignments folder because you won't be assigning work to anybody. There's a section called submissions with decisions. Once you make a decision on a manuscript, it will be in one of these queues. This is active work, things that don't have a decision. This is completed work. So you'll always have access to things that you've worked on, even once the decision has been saved. Well, let me explain that. Decision is where you save the decision, which is revise, reject, or accept. Final disposition is a setting that we do, or your coordinator does, if something is rejected or accepted. We move it to this category of final disposition. It's sort of like parking a car and never moving it again. So things that everything that's accepted or rejected will ultimately move to the final disposition queue. Okay. So let's go into the new assignments folder and check out this new assignment that's been given to you, or to Stephanie. So we click on the new assignments, and we come to a screen that it will be familiar. Yeah, I call this page the manuscript summary page because it's a summary. It gives me some information, title, author, but where's the abstract? Where is the whole list of authors, things like that. So it gives me a summary, but that's all it gives me, and it gives me options on the far left of things that I can do in this system, and I'll go through those with you. So the first thing you want to do is actually view the manuscript. So kind of read it and see what it's like. So you would click on View Submission, and it'll download the PDF. Now, I don't know if you've ever submitted to a journal with this system. If you've ever worked for an Elsevier journal, you probably have seen something like this. So you would open the PDF, and the author is asked to submit everything separately, meaning a title page, then the manuscript, then the cover letter, and then we bunch it all up into a single PDF for your use. And this is what we have. It's a title page, and then you start out, then it'll tell you, okay, here's the title page with author information, here's the masked manuscript without author information, and then it goes through and you can read the whole item that's been submitted. So it'll tell you what it is you're looking at. The reason we do this is so that we can take out the cover letter and the title page to mask it from reviewers. So their PDF, you can be assured they don't get the title page and things like that. This is the manuscript summary page, right? So where do you go for the other stuff? You go to the details link. Click on that, and I recommend that you come here and just take a look at all that's here. This is where you could see the author. If there were other authors, all of them would be listed below the corresponding author. Keywords are here, classifications, which I'll get into in a moment. The abstract is displayed. All kinds of information is displayed here on the page. So if you can't find it on the summary page, it's probably on the details page. One thing that I think I wanted to highlight here is there's the ability to mark something for press release. So if you see something, if you have a manuscript that you think is worthy of press release, you can just check yes and then type in a short rationale for this. And we will pick this up programmatically from the system. We troll the system constantly, looking for things that have been marked for press release, and send that to our public affairs office. So you have that at your disposal. Which is, I think, kind of a nice little feature. I'm going to skip initiate discussion because I don't think it'll be set up for your journal. History has two sections. The first section is the workflow history, the manuscript moving through particular milestones, from being an incomplete submission that the author is handling, to being a PDF that needs the author approval, to being a submitted manuscript. Now it's with an editor, and then it'll move to things like under review, decision in process, etc. So it'll mark as it moves through the different milestones the date that it moved into that section, that actual milestone. The correspondence history is exactly that. It's a record of every email that's sent out through the system. So, for example, the editor assignment letter, you can click on it, and this is where Stephanie got the letter that was assigning the manuscript. You would get you're going to get this exact letter, and here's where the link would be to where the stars are. This is where it would be a link to come, and it would bring you to this page right here. Okay. Do you ever do track changes on journal articles, do you think? Well, you might, if you, I'll show you the file inventory is where you can get or extract the elements that were created into the single PDF. So it'll show the item, the title page. Here's the mass manuscript, and it's a doc file. So if you wanted to download it and do your make some track changes or comments on the particular article, you could extract that document from the PDF using the file inventory. Just click download, save it locally, make your changes, and then when you get to the point, you won't upload it here, you're going to upload it when you get to your decision letter. So it is possible to do. I just want you to know that. And that's what file inventory is. Otherwise you probably wouldn't, you might not even use it, but it'll be here for you if you need it. Okay, classifications is an interesting little twist. Keywords we know about. Those are simple free text. I call the article, like here this article has classifications like fidelity and faithfulness or something like that. But the problem with keywords is that they're free text. So my example I like to use is that, say you have an article where the author uses the term dysphoria, and as the editor you're searching for the term depression. You're not going to find that article, or you're not going to, if you're looking for reviewers who have that in their areas of expertise, you're not going to find them. So we use classifications as a control vocabulary so that everybody's using the same terminology. And it actually is, and Dan is working on a classification list for your journal. So it'll be specific to your journal. And so it'll be used by 3 groups. Authors will use it to subject identify their articles. Reviewers will use it to describe their own areas of expertise, and you'll use it to map manuscripts to reviewers who have expertise in that area. So it's really a cool kind of tool, and you can. This is displayed here. You may never use it, but it's, say the author, the classifications never leave this system. They don't go out. Say it gets published, they don't go out of the system. It's really just for searching purposes. Exactly. Whereas keywords on the article are part of the article, yeah. But so the classifications link is here only so that you can, if you ever wanted to add a term, maybe the author missed something, and you could add a term here and go ahead and submit. It's really just for internal use, so it doesn't matter that you do that. But you can also search on whatever term you want when you get to the reviewer search, so it's up to you if you want to ever use that. Yeah. Okay, so now we get to the fun part, inviting reviewers. Okay, now, well, first let me say that, say you view the submission and you decide that it's a desk reject, you can skip the invite reviewers section and just go straight to submit editor's decision and comments and just choose reject. Or reject without review, I think is what we call it. And then you would submit that letter, and then Dan would receive it, and he would read it and send it out on your behalf. It would be your salutation and your letter, but he sends it. Just so he knows what's going on, especially if it's an acceptance, Correct. And it's basically clicking the send button is like approving or giving his sort of a stamp of approval on what you've decided to do. And I doubt that there will ever be an issue where there would be a change in that. So it's probably, yeah. So anyway, on this article we want to do reviewer search. So I'm going to click on invite reviewers. And it brings us to what's called the reviewer selection summary page. This is where this is basically where you can see the growth of your list of reviewers that you assign. Once they're assigned, they're displayed here under selected reviewers, and you can see there you can have invited reviewers who are people who you have explicitly invited, sent out a letter to, and then you have the opportunity to set up alternate reviewers who can be automatically promoted and invited should someone who you invited initially declines. So you can actually set it up so that you could have, 6 people, 3 people invited, 3 people as alternates, and then you're done, and let the system sort of sort it out. You know what I mean? Yes, exactly. So here's at the top of the screen, it says this submission will move to this completed required reviews completed folder as soon as 2 reviews have been completed. Here's where you come and change that number to 3. So make that 3. So now when and it's that easy. And then when you come back, the system is right, it changes it to 3. So you can come here and do this beforehand. You can also come back and click on invite reviewers and come back to the screen and change it after the fact. And the system will take that into account. The system also will have an automatic uninvite for reviewers who do not respond, and for your journal it's going to be within 10 days. So they have 10 days to say yes or no, and then they get booted. Yeah. Yeah. So the system helps you with that. So, and then automatically unassigns reviewers who do not submit a review. I think that Dan has got this to 65 days. I think it's once someone has agreed to do a review, you want to work with that person to get that review in. You don't want to just sort of jettison someone just because they're a little bit late. So anyway, this is what this is the automated things that the system can do that you can change on the fly by manuscript. Okay. So now we're going to do the reviewer search, and there are actually 5 search options. There is reviewers. The search for reviewers is actually an option. It's not just a header. This is a contact information search. Suggested by author is exactly that. Authors at submission are allowed to submit suggested names that they think might be good reviewers, and you have no obligation to use them, but they're there for you if you need them. Search by classification matches will display the terms that the author submitted with the manuscript, the classifications, the 3 to 5 terms that the author supplied. And so you can search on those. Search by personal classifications brings up the entire classification list. And while it displays at the top, here are the 4 or 5 terms that the author chose, you have the entire list to choose from. So you can search whatever you want. Suggest reviewers is a sort of a scattershot approach to finding people. It basically says suggest reviewers is basically show me everybody in the system except those who meet certain exclusion criteria. And that would be something like the reviewer is at the same institution as the author, exclude those. And it's a way to sort of mine your data set of reviewers, finding people maybe that you've not used before. So, but we're going to try just to search for reviewers, and you can also narrow it, so just ed board or student, or just what we call ad hoc or just reviewer. An entire database will pull up all reviewers and some authors who have said in their profile that they would like to be reviewers. So if you're trying to expand your pool, you can do that. But we're just going to choose all reviewers and go. And now we have to give it some search criteria. So you've got all these different criteria that you can choose from. You can choose, and here's where you can use keywords. If you know a partial email address or institution, you can do that, or a last name. I'm going to just do last name starts with J. Okay, and we'll leave the rest of these fields blank, and it will ignore them. I click search, and it will bring up reviewer candidates, and it looks like there's no results, but they're down here below the reviewer candidate section. And so you've got, here's Lisa, Ronald, Colleen. You've got all these reviewers who are possibles for you. Proposed, P-R-O-P is proposed, and I'll show you that. I'll do one as a proposed reviewer and explain what that is when we do this. And the first thing you're going to look at when you come here is look at reviews in progress and outstanding invitations. If either of these numbers is higher than 0, they've been engaged by another one of your editors. So you probably don't want to use them, or just at least know, you might want to put in the letter saying yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to explain on this, there are two things on this that make no sense to me, so I like to explain them. There's this unassigned after agreeing versus terminated after agreeing, and what does that mean? Terminating a user is a type of unassignment. It's unassigning can happen at any time in the review process. Someone might agree and then 3 days later say, oh, I think I read the article and I have a conflict, so I need to be unassigned, or for whatever reason. These are people who have agreed. Now, terminated is a specific action that is linked to the drafting of the decision letter, when someone has just not completed their review and you need to move forward, because the system will not allow you to draft a decision letter when you have outstanding reviews. So you have to, what they call, terminate the review. So it's a type of unassignment. The next thing I'll explain is the difference between manuscript rating and average review rating. Manuscript rating is a number that the reviewer gives to the manuscript. It's like grading a term paper or something, out of 1 to 100. It's just a general opinion of the article, and this displays here as an average. So this person has completed 2 reviews, Ronald Jackson, and his average rating is 84, which is fairly high. So it gives you a sense of how strict or how lenient they are as a reviewer. You can also click on the person's name, and one thing I think is really cool, they have a lot of statistical data, historical and current, but the thing I like the most about this is they have a completed reviews section where you can actually click on the recommendation and read their previous reviews. So you can see yourself what the quality of their reviews is. So then the average review rating is a number that you give as the editor to the review, and I guess by extension to the reviewer. And that's on the scale from 1 to 5, 5 being highest. And that also displays as an average. So for Ronald Jackson here, his average review rating is 4.5, which is really good. It's useful. It's useful if everybody's doing it, because this is the most useful rating, I think, because it gives you a sense from your colleagues of how this person has been in their performance. Yeah. So that's what this is for. I would generally look to reviews in progress, outstanding invitations, and an average review rating are the 3 most important things on this page. Okay, so we're going to invite Lisa. We're going to click invite, and you can invite multiple people on the page. You don't have to do it one at a time. We're going to set Ronald Jackson as an alternate, and we're going to make Colleen what we call a proposed reviewer. And we're going to leave the rest of them alone and go ahead and click proceed at the bottom of the screen. I should also note that you can set your results to come out at 25, 50, or 100 at a time, and it will remember your number. If you reset it, it will remember that. So I like 10 because it's just easier to get down to the proceed button. So I click proceed, and now I come to a screen that asks me to send out the letters. And there are template letters. One is for invitation for new submissions, one is an invitation for a revision, and one is for a letter that, for those rare but do happen times when a reviewer outside of the system agrees to review. But so we basically right, but they've agreed on the phone. They'll say, yeah, I'll do it, and so, but you still need to send them a letter to get them the manuscript. So the reviewer assigned but not invited letter says, thanks for agreeing to review, here's the manuscript and here's how to review it. So that's what that is. But most of the time you're going to be using these 2 letters. And you can customize any letter that you want, and I recommend that you do. And yeah, and so the alternate here has a letter as well. Now, Ronald's not going to get a letter unless Lisa declines, right? But there's not going to be that if you're gonna personalize them now, because it stores the letter and then it'll go out because you don't get a chance to come back and change it. And now Colleen is a proposed reviewer, and she's not going anywhere. She's just listed. She's going to be listed as somebody that you might use in the future for this. Might be good. These are notes to yourself. If you're the kind of person or kind of editor who likes to use a lot of reviewers and sort of pare down your list a bit, the proposed reviewers is a good selection option. It's also good because if you don't feel comfortable with the alternates promoting automatically, you can set a bunch of people as proposed and then come in and promote them manually. So it's really up to you how you do it. I click confirm selections and proceed, and now it's sent my letter. It sent a letter to Lisa Jackson. It's saved a letter for Ronald Jackson, and Colleen is proposed. I go back to the reviewer selection summary page where we started, and now I've got Lisa here and Ronald, and Colleen down here is a proposed reviewer. And if I choose to invite her or make her an alternate, I can do so just by choosing this and clicking select, and then the letter will come up for me to move her up if I choose to. But Ronald is set to be invited. Right. So let me do a quick suggested by author and see what I get there. Okay, so it tells me Hal Warren has been suggested, and it tells me, oh well, there's a Hal Warren already in the system. So this may be the person, or it may not be. Maybe it's a different Hal Warren. In this case, it is the Warren that I want. So I'm gonna set him as an alternate, and I'm gonna invite him and proceed. And there's my letter, and I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to go ahead and proceed and process. Go back to the selection summary page, and now I've got two alternates. Yeah. Now there's a feature here. You can also, you can set your alternate order. Yeah. So now Hal would be my first alternate. So if Lisa, this is an important thing I need to tell you about, and there's a reason why I added Hal. There's a rule that I call, it has no name, so I give names to things. The rule is called the like follows like rule, and by that I mean that the type of reviewer matters to the system. So it looks, from what we're looking at, as though Hal will promote and be invited if Lisa declines, but that will not happen because she's a reviewer and he's an ed board reviewer. They're different types of reviewers. So it makes sense because if you have, some journals have things like statistical reviewers or methodological reviewers, and so they don't want to have anybody promoting in their place. So that's why it's there, but for us it's a little bit of a pain, because we don't really have that restriction. There is a way around this though. If you want to you can make Hal explicitly linked to Lisa as an alternate to her. With the link option here, I click on this, and it says, who do you want to link Hal Warren to? I want to link Hal to Lisa, and click submit, and now he leaves the pool of alternates and is moved up to being linked to Lisa. He's not been invited yet, but he will only be invited if Lisa declines. So it's a way you can do that and link people so that, if A doesn't say yes, if A says no, then go to B. So it's really up to you how you handle this. So I just wanted to go through some of that. I won't do the search again, but I just want to show you the classification matches. And what it looks like is, this is the one where you can search by the terms that the author chose, and it'll tell you, it kind of says if you choose addiction, you're going to get 9 reviewers. If you choose interpersonal processes, 3 people are going to come up that you can choose from. So it's actually and you can choose just which terms you want to search on, click submit, and it'll pull up the people for you to choose. And then, as I said, personal classifications brings up the entire editorial board or entire journal classification list. So you can choose anything you want. I'm gonna not do suggest reviewers because it's just basically pulling everybody. You click on go and it'll just pull up everybody for you. The last thing I want to show you is, say you have somebody who doesn't and they're not in the system, and you've searched for them and they're not in. You can register and select a new reviewer. And this register and select new reviewer is on almost every screen of the reviewer search. So if you're back, remember that manuscript details page or manuscript summary page where we started? You can click on invite reviewers, and there's a link here that says reviewer, register and select new reviewer on that screen as well. But we're going to do this here. And all they need is a first name, a last name, and an email address. And I'm going to do this here. Cheryl Ladd. Okay, and I go ahead, and then we talked about permissions. That permissions, everybody has an author permission. So by virtue of being logged in and registered, Cheryl Ladd now has a permission to be an author. But beyond that, things have to be granted. So here we need to give her a reviewer role, and then her default role will be reviewer. So you're going to check the box as well. You want to give her a title. I usually default to doctor. Give them the benefit of the doubt, and and then I have to choose a country for their affiliation, and then that's all the information that you need to give. Then there's the register user and do not send letter, or register user and send letter. The letter they're talking about here is not the invitation. It's registered. It's a registration letter. It says, here, you've been registered with this journal, here's your username and password. The decision of whether or not to send that letter depends on what you're going to do with this person. If you're going to invite Cheryl in about 30 seconds, you would click do not send letter, because that information is going to be in the reviewer invitation letter as well. If you're loading people in the system and you might use them next Tuesday, you would probably click the send letter, because it'll give them a heads up that they are that they're in the system. But in this case, we're going to not send letter because we're about to invite her. So all you do is click do not send letter, and as soon as it finishes running, I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, so I've successfully registered her, and I can go back to let's see. Let's go back to the main menu. Usually, what it usually does is it brings you to that person. But we can go to reviewers invited no response, because we know that's where that manuscript is, because we just did it. Here's forsaking all others, and I can go back to invite reviewers and search for her. She should be here. She's in the system. And then there she is. And there's Cheryl. So I can invite her and set her in the system. Now there's a way to do this from this screen. I believe there's a select register and select new reviewer. I think we'll bring that person directly to the screen where you can, that has the checkboxes for invite, alternate, and proposed. So if you do it from here, from this screen, the summary page, I think it will save you a step. So anyway, but it's really easy to add them. Just click on register and select new reviewer. Yeah. Okay, so we've got these reviewers, and we've got it set up the way we want it. We've got, and our manuscript is moved from the new assignments folder down to the reviewers invited no response folder. You'll notice, I believe it's going to be under submissions requiring additional reviewers, because we set it to 3 and we've only invited 1 person. So it's an indication of it's a good example of the fact that manuscripts can be in more than one queue. This manuscript is in actually 2 queues because it meets the criteria for both. The best thing to do is to use the email that you get. You receive 4 emails. 1 when Dan assigns the manuscript to you. 2 when a reviewer agrees or declines. You'll be alerted to that. 3rd, when a review is returned, you'll be alerted to that. And 4th, when all reviews that are expected are returned, so a decision letter is needed. So you can use that, and in all cases there will be that deep link in the letter, so you can just click on it, bypass this screen exactly, take you exactly where you need to go. So I just depend on those emails is what especially when you're starting out. Okay, so let's go into the reviewers invited no response folder, and here we've got forsaking all others. I'm gonna skip over the reviewer. Let's see. So let's actually. I want to actually submit a review, and we're gonna so I can show you how you can view the review. Okay. So we're going to go into 1132 because there's 2 reviewers here. I'm going to go into the details section, which has all that details information about the manuscript, and there's a section for reviewers. I'm going to toggle down to that section. So we've got Jack Jones and John Abela as our reviewers. Here's where you can change their due date. If they contact you and say, I can't get it done by the 19th, can you give me another week? You can change that if you choose to. That will also affect reminder letters, so it's a good idea to change that date so that people won't get reminders for dates that are not appropriate anymore. So we're going to go in as Jack, and I can proxy. There's that yellow again, and so I'm proxying for Jack, and I go to his new invitations. You can view the submission, you can agree to review. I'm going to do that. And then I go to my pending assignments, and there it is again. I can submit my recommendation, and here's where I can choose to accept or revise. Let's choose revise and resubmit. In the test site, we don't have it set up. Someone turned it off. Where they put the number from 1 to 100 is going to be displayed right here next to the recommendation. So it just says give it a rating of 1 to 100, and there's a little box here. Then they give their manuscript rating questions that they can answer. They're optional, and then they can put their comments into the editor. And anything going to the editor obviously doesn't go anywhere. With the only other question, we can set up tailored questions. The only one we ask is, do you have a co-reviewer, for those cases where editors are reviewers may be working with a student or something like that. So we can know that information. But these are just custom questions we were playing with. So the author the reviewer can also upload attachments if they choose to. So we're going to click proceed, and this is a summary of what they've done, and submit to the editorial office. And then they come back to their main menu, and they are done. That manuscript is now a completed assignment. So we can log out of proxy, and just to do that, we just click the log out button one time, and it brings us exactly back to where we were, which is looking at the details screen for that manuscript. And if you look at the status of the reviews, we've got 1 completed and 1 invited, no response, because we just completed the one from Dr. Jones. That displays, the editor receives an email that the review was submitted just now, and there's new view reviews and comments link appears. You notice it doesn't appear above on this manuscript because nothing's been submitted yet. But you would click on view reviews and comments, and here's Jack Jones and his decision, and we've got revise and resubmit. John Abela is still invited, but he hasn't given us an answer yet. I can view the review by clicking on the recommendation, and here's Jack Jones's review, his rating questions, his comments, and so on. So you can read the review here. And this is also where you would rate the review, or you give it a 4. Okay, and go ahead and close that. And you can close this summary. So that's how you can come in and do this one at a time. You can wait till they're all in, whatever you want to do. So let's say that we have we are done with this manuscript and we want to make a decision. Thank you. I was like, what are we doing now? Okay, so we click on the submit editor's decision and comments link, and that brings us to another summary of the what the reviewers have done. Jack Jones is now reviewer 1. You could also come here and just read the reviews in this area. Any attachments that were submitted would be here. And then the listing, it lists the editors. Your name will be here and Dan's will be here, and the author's name will be listed. This is all just informational. And then the comments to the editor and the comments to the author are here, and another chance for you to rate the review if you miss it on the first try. Now the problem is, this is the screen where we make a decision, but there's no drop down for decision options, and that's because John Abela is in our way. He has been invited, but he hasn't. He's gumming up the works here. So we need to terminate his invitation and move forward without him. You would just click on the terminate outstanding assignments and proceed. You don't have to, and then click on that, and it'll say, okay, he has not responded to the review invitation. Are you sure you wanted to dismiss him? And so you would click yes. When you do this, the reviewer will not, when they log in, the manuscript will not be there for them to review. So it basically takes away the assignment from them. And you can terminate the assignment. I would always suggest that you would send a letter. I can't imagine a situation where you wouldn't send a letter. But so we're going to terminate and send all letters. You can customize it if you choose to before you send. And then we'll go back to the submit editor's decision and comment screen, and now we've got a decision option. Yeah. Your decisions are going to be, this system is not correct. It's not going to look like this. You're going to have, these are the 6 decisions you're going to have. You're going to have accept as is, minor revision, major revision, reject with external review, without external review. And then there are going to be 2 types of reject without external review. One is inadequate and one is inappropriate. So inappropriate, just to clarify, is for things that don't meet the scope of the journal. They might be well written, but they just don't fit. Right. Inadequate is something that fits the scope of the journal, but is not of good sufficient quality to be published. Okay, so we're going to choose accept pending minor revision here, but that would be like just minor revision when you get to your system. Go ahead and proceed. And then you've got, this is a summary again. This screen will go on for a long time because in the real life, everybody's comments. So you've got to click proceed again to get to the decision letter. And based on the decision that we made 2 screens ago, up comes a decision letter that we can tailor. And you make your changes here. You pull it up. It's a template letter that all of you are using, the same letter. It has what we call merge fields in them, and you want to leave those alone. You don't want to put in dear Tom, because the other thing is that reviewers will receive a copy of the decision letter. So if you leave it this way, where the last name is populated by the system, it will extract that. It will extract that from the letter that the reviewer gets. If you put in a name, then it will be there for the reviewer to see. And then here's a revision due date based on a calculation of, I think it's 30 days or 60 days for your journal. But you can change that. And here's where you would upload attachments. I won't show you how to do it, but remember we talked about the file download earlier? Yes. Had a reviewer submitted a paper or a document as part of their review, it would be displayed here. It would be displayed here already as an attached file. The system will pull it in. The other thing that I should tell you is that the system will pull If the file that the reviewer submits is a PDF or a doc file, that includes RTF, it will scrub the author properties, so the author won't know who the reviewer was. So the document should be clean. So if you needed to upload an attachment, you would just click this, and up would come a screen. You would just upload the file, give it a name, go find the file, and here's where you have viewing permissions. You can say the author obviously you want them to see it, but you can decide whether or not you want the reviewer to see your changes as well. And then you can go ahead and you would click attach the file and proceed and get it loaded on. Production notes, you probably won't use that, except maybe something that you think is essential for a special issue or something like that. I mean, you might want to mark something like that in this system, but that you probably won't use it. You've got the save and close button if you want to hold on to the letter and draft it, come back to it. I should mention also that reviewer comments that are not documents, outside attachments, are appended here at the end of the letter, so they're pulled in. If you're ready to send the letter to Dan, you're ready to send it out, you would click Submit Decision with Draft Letter. And this is when you're done with it. And it says, thank you for submitting a decision. And so Dan, in this case, is getting an email that you submitted a decision. And so he just pulls it up, reads the letter, and then he clicks send. And then, so at this point, you're done. When you're done with this, and you can see that manuscript has left your queue, and it's down here under submissions with my assignments with the decision, and there's that manuscript, that 1131 that we were just playing with. Right, yeah. So I hope this will be helpful for you. That's all I have to show you. I don't want you to feel as though you have to know everything that I've told you. Just kind of have some sense of it, and I am always here if you have questions.